Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Carol, for joining me today for this episode. I had a brief chance of like just getting to know you, but tell us a little bit about who Carol is.
Ooh, who Carol is, Nicole. And it's funny because that question was so hard for me to answer in previous years. It would honestly bring me to tears. And
Mm.
that's because I didn't know who I was, other than being a wife to my husband, and mother to my kids and daughter to my parents. Like, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what would bring me joy aside from, the people that I loved. And so Carol now is a strong woman who's been through some stuff, been through some life lessons, right? Been through some life lessons, and Carol will use her experiences to support women in living in abundance. Carol loves living in abundance.
I
When
love
Carol finally discovered it, I mean, it's life is beautiful.
it.
Carol loves life.
And when did you discover, like, truly who Carol is? When did you discover that? Because I know, like, for me, I went through a situation where, I've been a mom since I was 18 years old. And so it's always been about, like, caring for others, like, being there for other people, and then being with someone for 10 years and then breaking that off. Once
Mhm.
that was done, it was like, same thing. Who am I? Like, what do I like? Who is Nicole? So how did you discover that part of who you are?
I must say, I was kind of forced to find myself. I've realized now after the fact, but I've always found, peace visiting my father. So, like, I was a young mom as well, not as young as you. I think I had my first when I was 21. That relationship didn't work out, and I met my husband and we got married when I was 23. So, as you can see, if you do the math there, like, we moved pretty quick. So, moving so fast through life, and, I had all four of my children before I was 27. I was just going through the motions, doing all the things that I had to do as a human being, as a mother, as a wife. When I lost my father too early, God rest his soul, he passed in 2019. I realized that I really leaned on my dad to kind of be my rock. Lo and behold, his nickname is Rocky. He was just that guy. He was everybody's dad, everybody's friend. Everybody loved his energy. So when I lost my dad and I lost that support of that amazingly loving male human, I realized I actually didn't have that in my marriage. And not having my dad, obviously still being in my marriage, I was like, wait, I need to know what I like. I need to know what I don't like, because right now I know I don't like this marriage.
Mhm.
And I would actually, when I was still a full-time employee, I would sneak away on my lunch breaks, actually go to like a women's, I guess, crisis help center. Cause I was like, something is very wrong with me. I don't know who I am. All I know is I don't like my life. It is hard. I am not happy. I am just kind of like running robotically on empty, and I can't live like this. So, losing my dad, realizing that something needs to change in my life, with my family, not having that, male person who loves me. And then, of course, the pandemonium that happened shortly after losing my dad, I was forced to kind of look within because you couldn't go anywhere. We all know 2020 held us in our space, and realizing I didn't like my space. So I knew I had to do something, and I knew what hurt the most, and it was my marriage.
So when you figured out that something was missing, not knowing what it was that was missing and going to the help center to try to find that, what
Mhm.
gave you that leverage to move forward? How did you find that leverage?
Well, when I did go to do that crisis counseling, she gave me a questionnaire to fill out. And it was kind of like a point system. And it's like, hey, check off what applies to you here in this thing. And so, I checked off the boxes that applied to me. And the counselor looked at me and she said, okay, do you realize that you're in an abusive marriage? And I just broke down because I was just like, but every marriage has their issues. And, it's hard raising all these kids. And I was just like, no. And she just broke it down, this emotionally, this financially, this mentally, this physically. This is all not good. And, for the record, I must say it's very important to me. I was never physically abused by my husband. He never put his hands on me in a negative or harmful way. And that was one of major realizations that I had, was that I was in an abusive relationship. And then come to think of it, just thinking how I thought, wait, there's no way. I can just imagine how many women are in relationships that they don't realize are abusive. I knew I had to do something.
Mhm. So it was more so like emotional type of abuse that you were kind of living through at that time.
Yeah, like an emotional, psychological. And that's why it kind of sneaks under the radar, because there are these moments of passion and love and happiness and joy and laughter. But it's the downside of all that. It's the up and down, like the extremes. It really plays with, your head and what you perceive to be reality, or what reality should look and feel like.
Wow. And it's so common because a lot of women go through that. And like you said, it's just like, not knowing that you're in that type of situation and realizing that you're going through that, but also knowing that something isn't right. Like something is not right. And then when you do have those male figures on the outside that show you something different, that's when it
Mhm.
kind of clicks also. It's like, okay, wait, when you think about your dad and you see who, the man that he is, and you realize, wait, he does not treat me this way.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
there's something kind of off here.
Yeah. And it's funny because I would bring that up to my husband, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's not real, life, and that's not love. Like, that's a fairy tale. That's your parents. There's not many other families like that." And then you just listen, right? You're just like, "Yeah, they are a really special couple, and yeah, you know what? That probably is old school love, and yeah, we probably can't find that." Now, mind you, too, me and my husband are from very different cultures as well, right? So, I would just always make excuses for his behavior, whether it was the culture, whether it was the fact that we were young, whether it was the fact that I had a child before meeting him and he never had any. I gave him all the chances, all the excuses, until I realized that really what I was dealing with was not just a husband that had an attitude sometimes. My husband actually has narcissistic personality disorder.
And how did that come about? Like, was it something that he realized that he needed to kind of seek out and get support with, or was it like other people on the outside that were like telling him this is like you need to go out and seek some help?
So, really and truly, the only person that needed him to see that was me. And he initially didn't think anything of it. It's just like, whatever, because I kind of discovered the term, I would say, in and around maybe just under 10 years ago. And it was funny because a friend of mine was talking about, oh, and my son's a narcissist. And I'm like, ha ha ha, I know. She's like, "No, like it's a thing." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "What do you think it means?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know, like they're very selfish. They think their poop don't stink." And she's like, "Yeah, but it's much deeper than that. It's an actual disorder." And I said, "Hmm." I'm like, "Describe your son to me." And I was like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "That sounds exactly like my husband." And from then, I was like a dog on a bone doing all the research about what this is. And no, this can't be my husband. He can't have a personality disorder. And lo and behold, he would check off every box and then some.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so I would kind of start to show him some videos, and I was like, "Hey, how do I put this across to him?" Thank goodness I have, I'm a very intuitive and strong empath. I'm like thinking, how do I get these, hints and clues and ideas through to him without him being on defense mode, because it's kind of the only mode that they know. And so I'd be like, "What do you think of this guy?" Right? And there'll be this video, and then afterwards it'll say it's narcissistic personality disorder. I'm like, "Can you relate to this?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I would totally be like that. He's a fucking asshole." Part of
Wow.
my language. I hope I can.
Yeah, no, go for
Yeah.
it.
And I was like, yeah, it would really suck to be with someone like that. And he's like, "What are you saying?" And I was like, "It sucks to be with someone like that." Right. And just little hints. And then you would see in his energy, it's kind of clicking. It's kind of clicking slowly and slowly. These, scenarios, he's starting to relate to them and being like, "Oh shit, I'm an asshole. I need to do something." Until I really made sure he did something.
Yeah. I mean, well, kudos for that, right? What I've read on the personality disorder is that they are so stubborn to where it's like they don't want to accept that these are things that they do in reality, and they hold on to that for so long where it's like seeking help is like not even a thing that they'll even try to do. So
Mhm. Yeah.
definitely is like kudos for him for, taking the steps to want to get better, actually just help the marriage and be there for you as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, it is very hard. It
Mm,
is very hard, and he's been on a 2-year journey of really, really trying because it was divorce or you can give it a whirl. Try
mm,
and be a better person. And, thank goodness he chose to try, and he's really realizing how deep his own wounds are, how much he shoved down. There were things that he didn't even realize he did sometimes because he would, shove it down and not want to accept what was his past or the actions that, he did to really hurt people and whatnot. Like it is deep work, it is hard work, and it's not for the weak.
mhm. And so it's been a 2-year journey for him. And then
Mhm.
throughout this time, you've been able to kind of build your business. Is it around kind of this situation, helping women that have been where you're coming from now?
Yes, for sure, 100%. And whether I realize it or not, or I put it out there or not, I just feel that so many women can't use their voice the way that they need to, or society tells them that this is the norm, or that's normal, you don't really need to talk about it, or you're okay, you're fine, it's not that bad, at least you're not getting your ass beat or whatever. But every woman's struggle matters. Nobody should be invalidated because somebody else's situation is worse. If you're going through it, you're going through it. And, us women need to stick together and support each other. And that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that your feelings should not be invalidated because someone else's situation is worse, because we hear that so often. Well, at least, like you said, at least he's not putting his hands on you. But that
Hmm.
psychological, emotional thing is real trauma in itself also.
Absolutely.
Like, and
Absolutely.
sometimes, like, that's a prolonged event where it's like, because then you're constantly replaying that in your mind, and you're walking on eggshells, and you're trying to make sure that, "Oh, is this right to do? Should I say this? Am I saying the wrong things?" So that emotional, like, trauma in itself is
Mhm.
just so hard to move through on a daily basis.
For sure. And I mean, some of the researchers say that it's even harder, right? Because it's a matter of questioning what your reality is. And, sometimes I'm still trying to find that. Sometimes I still find myself, thinking, "Oh, you know, can I do this? Would this upset my husband? Like, can I go for a walk? Can I go for a walk?"
Mm,
I can't believe sometimes that I used to question that. Can I go for a walk by myself? Me and my dog. It's
wow.
just little things like that that, some women, again, I'm not going to say take for granted because you shouldn't even have to think twice about going for a walk. But, that's the reality that some women are living. And it makes me so sad. It makes me sad.
Yeah, yeah. So you're coaching women that are kind of realizing that this is where they are, and you're helping them like get through this situation. So what are some like realizations that, you can provide to them or kind of help them to understand when they are in situations like that?
Yeah. I would say definitely listen to your own intuition, like what your gut tells you, what your heart tells you. If something doesn't feel good to you, don't make excuses for why it's happening. I know that that's a struggle that I've had. And really, if you have all the confidence in yourself and what, for example, abundance feels like, you're not settling for shit. You're not living abundantly if you're settling for anything, right? Know what you want, know what you deserve, know what you're worth. And, don't lower your standards for anyone. And that's what I always did as an empath. And many women are very empathic, right? We just, oh, but, and we'll make an excuse for people's behaviors. Oh, but, and we need to stop doing that. And it's not being a bitch. Just because you know what you want and what you don't want does not make you a rude person. Being mean makes you a rude person. But when you're respecting yourself, you owe that to yourself, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that confidence, like you mentioned, is like everything. When you realize that you started off as a confident person and then
Hmm.
you see that just kind of dwindling away day by day,
Hmm.
then those are like things that's a red flag, like for just
Yes.
understanding, like, wait, although we should change, like we should evolve, but
Hmm.
I'm not nearly as confident as I was before. So
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, because then you think to yourself, but wait, why? Especially after we become mothers. Why do we lose our confidence? After when we become mothers, we've now created humans inside of our body. Our confidence should be times 100 for doing that. So we should never be less confident, as the years go by, because every year is another level of, more wisdom, more experiences, more life lived. We've seen more every day, every single day. Confidence should always be up. Who cares? We're all going to get old. And you know what? What I know for sure is we're all actually going to die. So live it to the fullest. Love every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you mention like, okay, so how long have you been in business so far?
With the mentoring, I'm just coming up to like a year for
Okay.
that. I've been an entrepreneur. I think my first venture was back in 2010.
What
So
was
it's
that
been a
one?
time. Yeah.
What was the business in 2010?
I had a fitness business. I was a fitness instructor and I was a personal trainer. But because my kids were so young and I always wanted to raise them, I taught Zumba classes and I taught like baby and mom classes. Like I remember I taught like a mummy's tummies to kind of like bring your abs back, which is important. It's not about the sexiness, even though it makes us feel good. But I mean, like you got to support your back, and it's all about just having a healthy foundation. That was a lot of fun because too, in the marriage that I was in, I wasn't, I'm going to do air quotes here, allowed to go out. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I wasn't allowed to, I just had to be a mom, what, barefoot and pregnant or raising kids or cleaning home. And I'm just like, that's not me. I know
Mhm.
that's not me. So here's my out. I'm going to make money while I socialize, while I stay fit, because I wasn't allowed to go to the gym. God forbid I went to the gym. There are there are men there, right? And yeah, it was kind of like my saving grace. And the kicker was I make money doing it. And that was hard to convince my husband to, I hear air quotes again, let me have a business.
Yeah, so it sounds like, even back in 2010, you were all about like that confidence building, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
even just going back to the confident part of like having a business in 2010 and then kind of switching directions after you experienced a lot of things happening in your life, how do you build that confidence to just say like, this is what I've gone through? Because a lot of times we are building businesses off of our own experiences. So how
Hmm.
did you create the confidence in yourself to just be like, this is what I'm gonna go for. This was my experience, and now I want to help women along this journey.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna say, despite what I was going through, I was like, but I do know my worth. Even though I didn't act like it, even though I was a doormat and I was a yes girl to my husband, and I did live and I will always live for my children. I did know that deep down inside, I can do and be something very impactful. It's there. And I had to give it that glimmer. And even though when I stopped that business and worked full time, I knew that that was for the sake of my children. And it was just easiest. My children were all competitive athletes, and I did not have time to run my business. They were worth it. And to be home for them if they were sick and whatnot, they were worth it. My children are always number one. But I knew I couldn't just let my husband fully take everything that I am. Give yourself a little something, believe in yourself. in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
And just never let your light fully go out, you know? Hopefully everybody can be smarter than me and just not let anyone dim their light ever. But if you do find yourself dimming that light, don't ever let that fucking light go out. Ever.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard also, like when you are in something and you're not realizing like that you're in it so deep, but there,
Mhm.
a lot of times people on the outside can see it a lot clearer than you can. And
It's true.
so when those kind of situations, are happening and you like you said, that intuition is so strong, right? You know
Mhm.
something is wrong, you just may not be able to pinpoint it exactly, but,
Mhm.
listen to the people around you that love you,
Yes. It
always.
exactly. And that's the whole thing. The people that love you. Because it was funny, my husband would be like, "Oh, why are you talking to that person? She's a hoe." And I'm like, "She's actually not a hoe. She's never done anything hoe-like." Like, you know? So it's they can try and control you, but just again, just remember there's still that little light and trust that you're not that stupid. Your friends aren't that, they're not bad people. And don't forget that you do have your own soul. You do have a mind and yeah, never let that light go out.
Yeah, sometimes it may be dim, but as long as it's dim, it's not burning out. There's still light there, and
That's it.
yeah, you can still move forward. So,
Mhm,
I mean, I see a lot of myself in like this whole situation here. That's why I'm
mhm.
like, oh, I'm connecting a lot with with what you're
Yes,
saying for sure. So,
for
um,
sure.
yeah, I
And I
love.
think every woman has been there, especially mothers, because it's easy to just focus on motherhood. When you become one, it's just like, hey, this is the gift, and I'm going to do my best with it because, some women aren't granted the gift of being a mother, and some women choose to not be a mother, and that's great too, right? So important to find that balance for yourself. If you feel like you're losing grip, you're losing control, like you can reel yourself back in. You just have to know and trust who you are and, again, your worth. Um, and it's okay to kind of prioritize your children at times, right? I mean, when they can't feed themselves and they can't, wipe their own butts, you
Yeah.
got to do what you got to do. Um,
And
but
how old are your children right now?
Right now, my baby is 15, and I have a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, and a 21-year-old.
Wow, the baby is 15.
Yep, everybody's taller than mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a 16-year-old and he is like I'm, like, looking up at him. So I told him, "Stand back so we can be eye level. You cannot stand next to me. I am not looking up to you."
I
So,
get that. Are
yeah.
you, is your son, like, in the dating scene and stuff?
No, not yet, actually.
Oh,
He
okay,
is
good.
more so like both of my children are athletic. I also have an 8-year-old. So they're really
Mhm.
athletic and they are like my oldest is all about baseball. And I mean,
Yeah.
he has gone on like little things with his school dances and homecomings and things like that. I try, I ain't gonna lie. I be all up in this business trying to figure it trying to figure it out. But, like, he does keep some things to himself, but, yeah, I try.
Mm. Oh, it's
But I
so
also
hard.
give him his space, yeah.
I don't like it.
No.
I don't like it one bit.
Not
Oh,
at all,
man.
but, I mean, they're young adults, right? Like, they're getting to that age where it's like you have to let go, and with him being my oldest and,
Mhm.
I say it all the time where I had him when I was 18, so it's like we kind of have gone through the motions of life for a
Yeah.
very long time with me being young. It's like we've grown together. But
Yes.
he doesn't of course, he doesn't see it that way because he's always known me as mom, but
Right.
I just feel like we're so close in age and it doesn't calculate to him yet.
Yes. Well, that's funny. My eldest is a girl, and she makes the calculations all the time, and she's like, "Mom," she's like, "At my age, you had me." And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, I can't even imagine." And I'm like, "Yeah, don't
Yeah,
imagine. Don't do it."
exactly. Yeah, like
I
live
mean,
your life.
I we don't have any regrets, right? I mean, I was that one that it was like, okay, I'm a mom, and it just turned on. There was no like, oh my God, my body. Oh my God, how do I do this? I knew exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
Um, I
Isn't
knew,
that
I knew
so
what I.
weird also? It's like,
Mm,
it just clicked. Like, I
yeah.
of course, when I found out at 18, I cried my soul out, right?
Yeah.
But as the time went on, it was like, it just clicked on, like, everything that I needed to do, and, like, for him, life had just changed, and it's all about supporting this new human being, this new life. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it just happens, so,
That's it. It's amazing though. I love being a mom. It's obviously one of my favorite things. Obviously, I had 4 of them, so you gotta love
yeah.
something about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, Carol, I thank you so,
Mhm.
so much for doing this podcast with me, sharing your experience and talking
Yeah.
about the journey of everything, like your father passing, your the situation with your husband, and then also helping to guide women on like that realization and how to also like figure it out that, this is what I'm going through and maybe it's not right. Maybe
Yeah.
there's something wrong here. So,
Yes.
with that, can you please let people know where to find you and how to get more support?
Yes, for sure. You can find me on Instagram and I believe TikTok at carol.suky. That's Szuky. And me and my husband are actually on a coaching venture now together, supporting people that are trying to work through narcissistic relationships. It doesn't have to be that bad. But even just marriages in general that might need some coaching, need to kind of work through some stuff, understand each other better. You can find us right now at Live, Laugh, Shower Together. A little pun on love there.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you again so much for joining, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. Thank you for having me.